Imagine trading in your comfortable, familiar surroundings for the wild and unpredictable landscape of the Amazon rainforest. That's exactly what former Israeli soldier Yossi Ginsburg did in early 1981 when he set out on an adventure to Bolivia, South America. While traveling by ship, Yossi met a like-minded soul, Marcus Stam, a schoolteacher who had just missed the ship. The two quickly became friends and decided to embark on an adventure together. They pitched a tent in a nearby camping area, where they met Marcus's old friend Kevin, a successful climber and photographer with an impressive record of summiting every mountain in South America. Meanwhile, Yossi's adventurous spirit led him to meet a woman, and the two spent a passionate night together in the tent. The next day, the group traveled to La Paz, a bustling city in Bolivia, where they rented a place to stay. While exploring the local market, Yossi crossed paths with an Austrian named Karl, who shared his experiences of finding local tribes and panning for gold in the Amazon rainforest. He even invited Yossi to join an expedition to discover the elusive Toromona tribe, a group rumored to have hidden treasures. Intrigued by Karl's offer, Yossi invited his friends to come along for the journey. They were charged a meager $50 each for the trip and promised a block of gold to take home. After gathering their supplies, the group, led by Karl, set off into the heart of the Amazon rainforest by plane. As they reached their starting point, they knew that they were about to embark on a journey into the unknown, where danger lurked around every corner. Nevertheless, the thrill of adventure kept them moving forward as they took their first steps into the thick, lush jungle. They were excited about the discoveries they would make. After a long walk, they rested and set up camp for the night. Karl shared stories of a primitive tribe he had encountered on a previous journey. After 3 days, Marcus became fatigued and developed wounds on his feet, which slowed down their pace and caused them to become separated from Karl. In his desperation, Marcus shouted for Karl and annoyed Kevin, almost leading to a fight, until they realized a local resident was just herding cattle nearby. They continued walking and eventually reunited with Karl in the hamlet of Asaraimas, where they spent the day getting to know the locals and trying their tobacco cigars and wine. On the 4th day, after Marcus tended to his wounds, they stopped at the river bank to pan for gold and then crossed the river, where Karl shot a monkey and made it their dinner, although some of the group were hesitant about the taste. Marcus's condition worsened on the 5th day, slowing them down significantly, and they were forced to come up with a plan for him to continue without impeding their progress. They decided to build a raft to cross the river, which was initially thrilling until they encountered dangerous rapids, causing Karl to lead them to the river bank, where Yossi, Kevin, and Marcus panicked and could not follow Karl's guidance. Eventually, they reunited, but Karl was angry with them and decided to go hunting in the forest alone. Yossi went after him, and Karl ended up shooting a jaguar that had been stalking them. The tension between Kevin and Karl remained unresolved, leading to their decision to part ways. Karl and Marcus ventured through the dense forest while Kevin and Yossi crossed the river again. Before they split up, Karl cautioned Yossi not to wade through Malpaso San Pedro, a canyon with a fast current that no one had ever successfully passed through. After the farewell, Kevin and Yossi followed the river, while Karl and Marcus headed back into the woods. Unfortunately, Marcus and Karl were never seen again after that day. Kevin and Yossi eventually arrived at San Pedro Canyon and found it to be too dangerous to navigate, just as Karl had warned. Although they lost their raft and almost drowned, they managed to cling to a rock and save themselves. Kevin attempted to swim to the shore to get help, but Yossi was swept away by the current and had to cling to another rock until he was finally able to swim to the shore. Despite calling for Kevin, he received no answer and was forced to continue his journey alone, becoming tired and hungry. However, he managed to find some fruit and killed a snake for sustenance. He also had a vivid dream of being in a restaurant. As he continued his journey, he noticed a lump on his forehead, but he ignored it. Finally, after resting for the night, he saw Marcus standing in front of him, but he disappeared quickly. Yossi then noticed movement in the bushes and realized that something was there. After spotting a tiger, he grabbed a canister of gas and lit a fire to scare it away. Fortunately, the tiger didn't attack and he spent the night resting. However, he woke up with discomfort in his forehead and found a leech-like creature inside a lump. Yossi continued his journey, discovering a slash on a tree and 2 almost hatched eggs that he ate raw. He also found a remnant of a shelter, but it was useless. Despite his worsening condition and injuries, he decided to return to the riverbank to avoid getting lost. While Kevin was rescued and taken to Rarenabac by locals, he immediately sought the help of local authorities to find Yossi, who was still lost in the Amazon. Meanwhile, Yossi heard the sound of a plane in the distance, which turned out to be Kevin searching for him. Yossi waved his coat to signal for help, but the plane flew too high and Kevin couldn't see him. After failing to locate Yossi from the air, Kevin was advised to enlist the help of a local fisherman. Initially, the fisherman refused to assist due to Yossi being missing for over 2 weeks, but Kevin's persistent efforts, including offering to rent the boat, convinced the fisherman to help in the search. Yossi had become hopeless after missing his chance to be rescued by the plane. However, his spirits were lifted when he stumbled upon a crying woman who was a local resident of the Amazon. Although they didn't speak the same language, they eventually became friends as they journeyed through the forest together. At first, Yossi couldn't believe that she was real and had to check. The following day, they set off towards Rarenabak, but Yossi struggled to walk and had to use a stick for support. He became argumentative with the woman due to his depression and frustration about his situation. They spent the night together and Yossi tried to comfort her by stroking her, but he began to hallucinate. The next day, Yossi's hallucinations worsened to the point where he couldn't distinguish between reality and his hallucinations. Regrettably, while traversing the forest, Yossi fell into quicksand and slowly began to sink until he became exhausted and fell asleep. Upon waking up, he saw a branch hanging above him and used the last of his strength to grab it and pull himself out of the quicksand. Although he was able to escape, he was left feeling extremely tired and hungry, and felt like giving up. However, he heard a faint voice whispering that he needed to make his way to the riverbank in order to be found. With no hope left, Yossi crawled towards a tree full of fire ants, opened his shirt, and shook the tree so that the ants would sting him. This was an attempt to combat his exhaustion with pain, allowing him to walk as hard as he could towards the riverbank. Unfortunately, upon arriving, he found nothing and was completely drained of energy, unable to do anything but lie down. During the night, a turtle approached Yossi and he used it as a source of motivation. He had lost hope of being rescued and was resigned to his fate. The next day, while Kevin was searching for Yossi in the river, the strong current forced him to turn back. Just then, Yossi saw Kevin and crawled towards him, unable to shout for help. Kevin almost left the spot, but then he noticed Yossi and rushed to his rescue. After embracing him, Kevin took the weak Yossi to Rarenabak. The locals congratulated them for surviving in the forest for more than 2 weeks. Once they had recovered, Yossi and Kevin returned to their lodge in La Paz. The movie ends here.